Deleted session, January 3rd, 1972. Now, good evening. Give us a moment. Problems are often set as challenges, to be accepted and used for a greater purpose. They are multitudinous things interbound in any society at any given time, and they are all related. There is meaning in all of them. In the eras of the great artists, civilization was united by a series of revelations, ideas and also distortions. The artist was an important part of his society. The distortions grew so great that the whole structure crumbled. Many artists relied upon the stereotyped constructions of their age, rather than looking within for their own revelations, so that art could have become the frozen art form painting could have, that showed clearly the spiritual immobility of a people who finally grew dry. The world from that initial creative center had to expand. It could not do so by imposing its culture, however admirable in many respects, upon others. The culture had to change. The foundations of art had to change. The old images had to be in your turns demolished, for they had begun to freeze the birth of new insights and creative feeling. The artist became at that point truly an initiator, no longer supported by the cultural society. While the majority were still immersed in the old, the artists were already experimenting with the new and began to some extent outlaws to their own people. Those minor artists who still continued to follow old patterns often did so because they were honestly not initiators or creators, merely facile. They belonged to the, in quotes, mass mind of the time. Therefore, they did not have to feel a part and were accepted. You think you have harbored under great disadvantages, being born into a society that makes true creativity so difficult. True creativity is far more apt to flourish, however, to the extent that you are not trapped by the mass mind, in quotes, and not tempted by the inducements. You chose the circumstances against which to pit yourself. The kind of art you will produce is not meant to be the art of youth. It is not what you intended. Your insights and intuitions were to be sieved through early years of knowledge and experience. Through these, childlike wisdom will indeed show itself, but a wisdom that has been tried, that is aware of its own integrity through the seasons. An early acceptance would have tempted you to rely upon the facility before the inner spontaneity even began to grow to maturity. Your early comic book work should have told you that. You were quite facile and could have done well with it longer in other fields of activity. TV, for example, had you chosen. You did not choose that easy way for a reason. You knew you were preparing yourself, but the time of preparation was extended beyond what it need have been. The psychic developments are also interbound in your own work. Because you doubted yourself, the preparation time was extended by you. The final period was and is to be one in which your energies are directed to your work without the outside job. For finally, you began to feel that you were not doing what you should do. This itself inhibited your trust in yourself further, and therefore the development of your work. Trust between you and the Ruber was also a prerequisite according to your own plans. Said earlier, the impetus to help you is a built-in one, also meant as a further stimulus to Ruber in his work and in our work. Already the energies of your natures are beginning to regroup. You have therefore a firm foundation from which to begin your endeavors, as long as you understand and believe that you have. If there have been built-in time bombs, as Ruber once said, they have also been built-in points to lead you into new highly productive areas. Now, the yoga is good, a confrontation of Ruber with his body, leading to a reconciliation. He must not strain, however. Already energy channels are beginning to clear. The willingness and the recognition have occurred mentally, of course, to make the exercise possible. I suggest you take a break, and we will continue. Now, the inhibition you were enforcing upon yourself by working outside was reflected in your work inevitably. As soon as you became aware that the course no longer served its purpose, you were not one with yourself or with your course of action. You were somewhat apart from yourself then. In your sketches, you allowed complete freedom. The sketches sketch themselves through you, so that the paintings paint themselves through you in the same fashion, and the miracles of technique will follow automatically. No problem of technique will exist, in other words. Read again the material I have already given you, the suggestions on your paintings. You can use purple or violet with too heavy a hand, and the brown becomes lost land. Rise up the importance of yellows or colors signifying light. Let them shine through. Do not smother them with opaqueness. Let your preliminary sketches be as spontaneous as your ink sketches. Then imagine the colors as preparing from within, not applied from without, but shining through. Remember the incredible individuality and integrity and possibilities of each line. You can sometimes forget this in your painting sketches, while you are quite aware of it in your ink sketches. Imagine the colors as waves of light, not as applied or added onto, but as growing out of, filling the preliminary sketch as blood fills the body. Now, give us a moment. Your summary statement, this is, in English, the memory of a covenant. And that should be the word in Ruber's first line, instead of regulations. It is indeed an ancient covenant. It is a translation of many manuscripts that have appeared and disappeared throughout the ages. In your terms, the initial statement was a physical reminder of a covenant already made before spirit was made flesh. You and Ruber made it, in your turns now, together. You wanted to remind him of its importance. You have been summary together. You are now. Some of Ruber's early poetry about the two of you was a reflection of that knowledge. It was because of this that you decided beforehand on the development of the sessions. There are rights. that were used in various civilizations to stand as ceremonial reminders of this covenant. The Incas knew some of these. Christ knew them, but they were thrown away by his followers. The Hebrews knew but distorted the information. The Romanians knew but tried to override the body. Now, the covenants are appearing again. No man can be a fanatic who truly follows this covenant, for the soul nor the body is exploited for the seeming benefit of the others. The covenant is written in your genes. Rob said, "Can I ask a question?" Seth said, "You may." Rob said, "How could I write this covenant in summary when I didn't know what I was writing? I've wondered about this before. It's so easy, yet I couldn't do it in English." Seth said, "If you remember what I told you about the language, then you will see clearly." Rob said, "I couldn't remember offhand. When I am writing, I don't know what I'm writing." Seth said, "You don't consciously know. You need the connection yet, you see. The bridge of the language across which the meaning of the language can come. Do you follow me? Now, you may take a break. Now, I know you want an answer to your question." Rob said, "I can wait." Seth said, "Yet the question itself limits the answer I can give you. It does not have to be an either-or proposition, for example. There is no contradiction between the two alternatives you gave me. The covenant exists quite vitally within the depths of your being. Truth often appears hidden in the most exquisite of nonsense. It often disappears in the most weighty of tombs. It is not an imaginary covenant, yet with the aid of the imagination you can approach what it is. Now, some strong portions of Rupert's energies are already working in your joint behalf. The exercises are important symbolically because they show he is willing to spend time with his body rather than ignoring it. The intent will add to the exercise effectiveness. The body will be encouraged to free its rhythm and re-establish its natural ones. Energy will be relieved, but 3 days is hardly enough for him to expect great results. The results will come from the changed attitudes. These themselves brought about the desire to exercise, and the desire flowed outward from your decisions. Areas of the body are being manipulated and literally washed that have been relatively untouched and denied energy in the past. The exercises, and again, because of the inner interest, will bring about a weight again. No more bodily weight as the adjustments continue. Quite literally, he felt no deep need for exercises before. It did not serve his purposes. I am going to give you a shorter session this evening, and unless you have questions, I will end it. Rob said, "I guess not." Seth said, "This is to compensate for your long session." Rob said, "That didn't bother me any." Seth said, "There are developments still occurring, or rather the developments begun are only begun." And with that enigmatic statement, I will end the session. My heartiest regards to you, and a fond good evening. Love said the same to you, Seth. Thank you very much. Good night.